When a disaster hits, what's the difference between a city that falters and one that bounces back? Well, today we're diving into that very question. We're looking at a fascinating monograph from 2024 by Amanda Rodrigues da Silva Oliveira, advised by Professor Dr. Jordan Henrique de Souza. This work comes from the postgraduate course in Public Management and Protection and Civil Defense at the Federal University of Juiz de Fora, and it puts one city's emergency plan right under the microscope. To really get why this research is so important, let's start with this number: over 8.3 million. According to the Digital Atlas of Disasters in Brazil, that is the number of people who were left displaced or homeless by disasters in the country between 1991 and 2022. This isn't just a statistic, it's a staggering human cost, and it really highlights just how urgent it is that we build safer cities. And that really leads us to the heart of the matter. As extreme environmental events become more and more common, are our cities, our homes, truly ready to handle what's coming? This question is exactly what this research sets out to explore. So to see how the study answers this, here's our game plan. We'll start by looking at the growing risk in our cities. Then we'll dive into the Juiz de Fora study itself. After that, we'll unpack how they actually measured resilience, look at the final diagnosis for the city, and, most importantly, explore the path forward. Okay, so why all the urgency? Well, the study points out that we're basically at the center of a perfect storm. On one hand, you've got cities expanding like crazy, often without great planning. And at the exact same time, climate change is making extreme weather the new normal. This combination is turning urban resilience from a buzzword into a flat-out survival strategy. And the author makes it crystal clear that this isn't just a local issue, it's a global one. This quote really says it all. Making our cities resilient isn't just a nice idea, it's a fundamental point for safe urban development. It's not optional anymore, it's absolutely essential for any city's future. All right, let's zoom in on the case study, Juiz de Fora. Now, this city wasn't just picked at random. Back in 2020, it actually received a certificate from the United Nations for its commitment to becoming more resilient. So this study is basically asking, okay, you've made a promise. What does that actually look like in practice? So the main goal here was to take this big, kind of vague idea of resilience and turn it into something concrete, a number, a score. The plan was to create a method to really pick apart the city's official contingency plan, its disaster playbook, to get a clear diagnosis of what's working and what's not, all to help guide better policies in the future. This brings us to the how. How do you even begin to measure something as complex as a city's resilience and turn it into a score? Well, the study tackled this head-on by adapting an existing academic framework to create a really practical evaluation tool. But first, let's be clear on what we're measuring. The United Nations defines resilience as the ability to not just get through a disaster, but to resist, absorb, adapt, and recover from it efficiently. It's all about bouncing back, and that's the key quality the study wanted to pin down. To do that, the research, building on a framework from Da Silva Ferenz and Garcia's, broke down the city's plan into these 7 key dimensions. You can think of them as the pillars of preparedness. They cover everything from identifying risk areas and monitoring threats, all the way to managing resources and coordinating the actual response. And the level of detail here is pretty amazing. It wasn't just those 7 pillars. Within them, the study used 17 specific indicators. Each one was carefully scored on a scale from 0 to 5, which allowed for a really thorough and comprehensive final grade on the city's resilience. All right, so this is the moment of truth. After all that analysis, all that scoring, what did the research actually find? Let's take a look at the diagnosis for Juiz de Fora. The final score came in at 3.35 out of a possible 5. Now, according to the scale the author developed for this study, that puts Juiz de Fora at a medium level of resilience. So it's not failing, but it's clear there's some pretty significant room for improvement. But that medium score hides a really fascinating story. When you look deeper, the city scored a perfect 5 for its monitoring systems, so it's fantastic at watching for threats. But for mobilizing response teams, it scored a 0, and for registering resources, just a 1. This points to a massive gap between planning and actually being ready to act. Let's break that down even more. The city really shines when it comes to the planning part. Its risk maps are detailed and available to the public, its alert systems are clear, and it has a solid process for updating its plan every year. But the weaknesses pop up in the real world, logistical stuff. There are no set response times for teams. It's not clear if there are enough resources for a big disaster, and there's a huge gap when it comes to clearly marked evacuation routes in many high-risk areas. But, a diagnosis is only half the story. The real value in research like this is that it doesn't just point out the problems. It offers a prescription, laying out concrete solutions for the city to build a much stronger future. And these recommendations are incredibly direct and actionable. The study says the city needs to figure out its true response capacity for disasters of different sizes. It needs a standardized command system to manage a crisis without chaos. And crucially, it has to get that evacuation signage up everywhere it's needed and, just as important, run regular drills with the community. These are real, practical steps. Ultimately, this study is just a powerful reminder that a city's resilience isn't about having a dusty plan on a shelf. It's about constantly testing that plan against reality. This is exactly the kind of academic work that bridges the gap between theory and practice, giving city leaders the hard data they need to make the tough calls that end up saving lives. This is a truly high-quality piece of work, and it shows the role this course plays in promoting science and efficient public management in Brazil. To get all the details, I really encourage you to consult the original monograph. It's linked right in the description. If you found this breakdown helpful, please follow our channel, give it a like, and share it so more people can see it. And one last thing. Just keep in mind that this is an automated summary made with AI support. It might have simplifications, so the original academic work is always the complete and faithful source. Thanks for joining us.